Just in case some of you guys don't know me, my name is Dr. Alex Meredith, and I am the Director of Student Engagement for the College of Ag Science and Technology. Just a little bit about myself. I've been with the university for 14 years. I am an alum, and I actually, around 14 years ago when I started, the university was actually using my computer's crazy. The university was actually using like bulletin boards to post job opportunities, experiential learning opportunities, things of that nature. And I kind of was like, nah, that's not going to work. So I started keying and actually created an email distribution for each major of students. And what happened was is when the students get an opportunity, of course, the first person they're going to ask about preparing or applying is the person that sent it to them. And then also in grad school, I used to teach professional development in agriculture. So I kind of fell into this, but I also do love it because I've been able to work with students over time. I'm saying that basically to say that you guys can trust me. and so um, and so today we're going to talk a little bit about LinkedIn. I am going to move a little fast. I do encourage you to do screenshot. So when I say you guys might want to screenshot this, definitely consider it. And then I'm also going to try to finish by 12. All right. So everything that we need to know for you guys to get started will happen before 12. I did add two games because I felt like, here you have LinkedIn already set up, but how do you still know what to post, what not to post, and then also what you should post as a professional or of course as a student. So just some things I want to share with you before we start. I've gone through my intro, and this is just some housekeeping. Of course, if you have a question, just either raise your hand or you can put your question in the chat. I'm gonna ask that we kinda no, yeah. I'm gonna if you put in the chat, I'll make sure I answer it as soon as possible. Or you can raise your hand, like I said. And then also, because there are some of you guys, this is your first time attending, these student engagement forums slash workshops go on all throughout the semester. So if you would, if there's another topic that comes up that you're interested in, of course, this is a good way to follow us because a lot of different things flow as far as scholarships, employment opportunities, experiential learning opportunities, things of that nature. Uh, the next engagement is this coming. I think that's Tuesday. It might be Thursday, but it's the 18th, and it's how to enlarge your lexicon, how what you're speaking and the words that you're actually using. That's really important because it shows that you're educated. It also shows that not only you're educated, but you're going to interface with a lot of different employers that, of course, on your first impression with them, they're going to judge you. And so that's going to tell them essentially what you did learn in college. If you're well read, that's usually how you build your lexicon. So myself and Miss Darden, who's an information coordinator within the college, we're going to talk about strategies, tips, and also different experiences because my lexicon was not always that extensive either. So I like working from actual personal experience. So you guys, if you want a screenshot or a screenshot the QR code, it's going to be from 11 to 12 on the 18th next Tuesday. Of course, our drawing winner from our last student engagement, where it was the NYU College of Dentistry came in, is Tamia Pelzer, sophomore biological science major. And then also, I am the program director of the DSU CAS 1890 Ag Scholarship Program. A lot of students see that ag or agriculture and think that they cannot apply. But these are the various majors that are applicable to being awarded the scholarship. And so the QR code takes you to the website. You can always apply online on that exact website. It opens November, well, it's been open. It closes on November 11th, and that's the actual deadline to be considered to be awarded for spring 2023. This is the actual QR code for this workshop. There are students that end up getting credit for attending. So this is the QR code that you would need so that you can, and it's actually a survey. But you're going to input your information as far as your name, your phone number, your instructor, that you're here for, so that we can then send your attendance to that instructor. And then also, there's an opportunity. Your name also goes into the drawing for a $10 Amazon gift card. It's open from 11:50 today till 12:30 p.m. So in between that time is when you can do the survey. If you go before or after, it will not. This is the actual error message that you'll get. So we're gonna dive right in. We have the unedited resume versus the edited. Bryce, who is here today, this is actually real. So we were Bryce works in one of my offices, and so we were working on his resume last week, and then I had students that were asking about LinkedIn, and I said, well, let's just go ahead. If me and Bryce are going to put together his LinkedIn next week, we might as well just do a forum and invite the whole campus. So that's pretty much how we got here. So we're really at the stage of we just finished his edited resume, and now we're basically going to go from the edited resume onto the LinkedIn portion. So here's Bryce's resume and what we had initially. Um, you guys, the way I see Dell State students, you didn't come here with everything that you might be expected to know when you leave here. So I don't really come from a place of judging. I come from a place of solutions. And so this was his original. And some things that I noticed a lot of students shy away from doing a summary because it can be intimidating. And I also, at your stage as a college student, I would just take the summary off. I say that because when you're a college student, 9 times out of 10, unless you are applying for something specific, like an internship or an experiential learning opportunity during the summertime, then it might be a reason to maybe put up a summary. But what I'm essentially getting at is that you don't have enough experience professionally to have an effective summary. And so it's not always necessary. Now, when you leave here, and you're going into a graduate school program, they're going to ask you for a statement of problem that you'll end up having to do, that you'll end up having to write. But on top of that, that could definitely be the time where you can have a summary on your wow, where you can have a summary um, on your resume because they are going to ask for your resume because then that summary can go along with your statement of problem and their program and so forth as far as a really good match. Bryce, we kept his summary because Bryce has a lot of working experience and he also has a lot of experience in extracurricular activities, more so with FFA. He's a state president of Delaware, and so that comes with a lot of responsibility, a lot of public speaking, a lot of outreach, a lot of going to banquets, a lot of working with industry, a lot of going and working with high school students at high schools, a lot of working with national FFA. So since I know all of these things, we're able to capture keywords that we can utilize to show transferable skills. Transferable skills are essentially skills that you're doing in one area on a job that can transfer to another. Last night I was talking to one of my classmates from the doctoral program, and he was saying, "Hey, I'm in this field, but I'm not gonna stay here that much longer. I'm actually thinking about going into a whole nother field." And so I told him, I said, "Well, why don't you take the transferable skills that you're already doing right now, and you identify which ones you love, and then make sure that you're taking those in alignment with where you want to go for another field, because at least when you get to that other field you'll love those transferable skills that you already have." So moving down into skill sets, a lot of times in college you only need one page, so I'm really big on getting rid of as much spaces as possible. Also, uh, that's kind of where I shy away from the actual skills, because if you actually have these different work experiences and things of that nature that are extracurricular, nobody should really be using high school experiences in college, period. But you'll be able to identify as an employer these different skills through what is actually here. So I mean, if you are going to keep it, they need to be prominent. And then also, what you could put here is the coursework that you're taking, not like the whole semester. No, if you're applying to a position with, I don't know, the Environmental Protection Agency, and they're asking for key courses, which they will, especially with the government, then you just want to see what those key courses are. If you've taken them, maybe put two or three on there so that they are knowledgeable that you've had those courses. Um, all right, so we had this, which was fine with me, and then we had an education, but it needed to just be in reverse chronological. Of course, meaning they need to be listed as most present to what's the most in the past at the bottom. And then also, like I said, I wanted to really hone in on this FFA piece. So this is what we came up with. And so, of course, he still has his information. Of course, like I said, he's not going to have one page because of work and because of FFA. So, of course, we redid his summary that's going to be more or less geared towards like wildlife management, which is his major. So things that he's looking for are internships, those type of opportunities where an internship can turn into a position. So I did feel like this was important. Of course, his information as far as educational background, um, then we just cleaned up. We cleaned up, and I'm gonna jump to one of the reasons why I asked you guys to make sure you have a polished resume. So if you have a polished resume, essentially all you're gonna be doing is copy and paste into your LinkedIn page. So I would rather take out the time and have a polished resume than to go on LinkedIn, where that's really the only place that recruiters for employers go to find talent. So I would rather, fix my grammatical errors prior than to look as if you can't write to somebody that might actually be interested in you. So we redid some of his bullet points to capture more in depth as far as what he does and staying away from redundancy from job to job. So that's also another way of like I said, capturing what you think that the next employer might want to see out of you. So essentially, you remember he had a lot of different things underneath activities and honors, but when we were able to meet, it's like no, he is state president, state treasurer, chapter vice president, and then we were able to capture what those experiences gave him in a sense of why it should be here and why it's going to help him if you do employ me. So things like presented professional development topics to high school students, dean's list, president's list, and of course you never want to have your references on there because it's taking up more space. And 9 times out of 10, if they're interested in you, no matter what, they're going to interview you. And then if you get the job, no matter what, they're going to request the actual references. And so this is definitely a screenshot. And this is basically the information that you would need in building a great student profile. So after this workshop, when you work on it by yourself, I did put my information in the chat with the survey link. So if there's anybody that has questions or while you're building yours, you have questions, you can always email me and I always get right back to you. So of course, number one, you want to write an informative profile headline which goes across the top. Well, yeah, across the top. Of course, it needs to be attractive to an employer. Pick an appropriate photo. We will see some things in the game that I told you that we're gonna talk about. Um, you want to show off your education. Of course, you can easily copy and paste that. Develop a professional summary, which we talked about. So you can also, once you have professional experience, create that professional summary that is so broad to your industry that whoever does view it gets an idea. So before I said make it more towards graduate school or a specific employer, well, something like here, you can create it so broad or nebulous that it'll definitely still work. You want to update your status regularly. You want to show your connectedness. Um, collect diverse recommendations. I'm going to show you guys about recommendations and why I love them. I'm going to talk to you guys. Matter of fact, I'll talk to you about connectedness right now. One beautiful thing about LinkedIn that I love is the fact that, you know, of course, you make a connection to another person, and then that creates your network. Well, every time that you post something, whether it is something that you've done professionally, maybe it's something that you believe in, maybe it's something that you believe in that is a saying that's along the lines of your work ethic. Those things go up to your network, right? But then their networks after them see it. So I'll post something, Bryce is connected to me, he'll like it, and then whoever Bryce is connected to sees that he liked my post and will read it and can like it if they want to as well. So I also love LinkedIn because they have what's called impressions. And so you know how like you guys have Facebook and then you post, you got 1,000 friends, and then you post and you got 5 likes. And you're like, come on now. Like, okay, really? Well, with LinkedIn, it's better because with impressions, you get to see how many people actually read it. So it'll say 405 impressions, 200 and something impressions. And then the last thing I want to talk about with the connectedness in your network is making sure that you're protecting your network, right? Because when you add somebody, they then have access to your whole network. And one of the issues that I find that's a problem is that when they have a connection to your network, whoever you know, it shows up that they know you and them. So if somebody that just connected to me all of a sudden then connects with somebody else in my network, that person in my network thinks that, oh, wait, they personally know Alex. So yeah, I'll add them. I'm going to give you one example of why like I said, you need to protect your network because I was working with an industry person. He approached me and added me, but he was also friends with my counterpart at Dell State. So I said to him, and when I say to everybody, are we affiliated? I don't have time to be sold anything before I add them. So after I added him, I said, hey, are you interested in providing any student engagement opportunities for Dell State students? Because clearly that's what I'm here for. And so he was like, oh no, he worked with Boeing. And then he was like, oh, I'm going to try to get you connected. And then he got a new position. And I met with him and I just did not, he was not a good guy. I'm going to leave it like that. And so in my job, where I connect students with industry, graduate schools, I always send out the opportunities, right? So if that person still sends me something, I'm still filtering out to the college and to the university. But as far as me saying to a student, hey, you should go with them. I'm never going to do that because if I'm uncomfortable with them, why would my student be comfortable with them? And I don't want my student to come back and then think, oh, you just pushed me off on somebody. So what I found was, and why I unconnected from him, he then started adding all of my students. And I'm like, okay, this doesn't make any sense anymore. So I had to unconnect with him. So that's just basically my thing about making sure that you're connecting your actual network because it is extremely valuable. You want to collect diverse recommendations. I'll show you guys some of my recommendations. Claim your unique LinkedIn URL, which is important because you don't want somebody else to think that you're somebody else. And of course, you want to share your work. And so I'll be very honest. I've always had a LinkedIn page. I've always known how it works, but I also had a lot of anxiety about showing off my work, about connecting with people. And I honestly just thought, hey, if a recruiter finds me, they'll like me enough. I mean, there's my degrees, there's my employment. But that's not really the case. There's a whole nother component as far as how to engage so that you're building different things as far as relationships. And so this is like a LinkedIn profile checklist, and you definitely want to screenshot this as well, where you can check off your photo, and it also has a reminder, your headline as far as what you need to, how you can develop it, your summary, your experience, your organizations, your education, volunteer experience and causes, skills and expertise, honors and awards, courses, projects, and recommendations. You don't have to have everything on here. If you're not comfortable at this time, you don't want your photo up, don't put it up. If you don't really have a summary, then I mean, just don't. If you feel like, and this is what all Dell State students, I've never heard one of them not say this when I start working with them. Oh, that's Siri. I've never heard a student not say to me, Dr. Meredith, I have all that I need to write a resume. It's always the opposite. It's always, Dr. Meredith, I don't think I have enough. And so, yes, you might not have enough, but I always tell students that your first job at school is to be your first full-time job is to be a student because you want to get out of here in 4 years. But the only way, if you're going to just solely be in school and not work, to get these experiences like honors and awards, skills and expertise, um, the experience is to be a part of a student organization. You can be in leadership in a student organization to where you can then talk about things that you've helped implement and execute for teamwork. But that's pretty much where you're going to get everything that you need to prove that you have certain skill sets, volunteering, honors and awards. And then, like I said, you can always transfer the transferable skills that you do in your student organization to actually transform it into an experience. So we're going to go ahead and log in. And all right, there's no questions in the chat. Uh, and here's this. All right, and so I'm going to also make this disclaimer. Um, I did say that I really just became, now I wouldn't say serious about it. Last year, one of the requirements that I had for students in the program was that I did a whole thing of social media branding with Waters Corporation. We did a co-presentation. And I said to myself, I said, well, I can't like teach students and then they connect to me and then they say, well, why does yours just look so basic? So I sat back for probably a whole semester and I studied. I studied what other people were presenting and I said to myself, I don't want to do what they're doing. I don't want to, and I don't want to point anybody out because I know these people. Yeah, I'm not. Uh, but what I did not want to do was I did not want to just sit up and repost just so I could get attention. I didn't want to do the generic stuff where if you just say that you like this and then if you put a comment here, you get attention as well because you do, and other people can see it and they might like it and stuff. I wanted to do stuff that was originally, that's just originally authentically me and mine. I didn't think about this until the other day when I was putting together this PowerPoint because I have students that are like this and they want to become what's an influencer. Uh, and I thought about it, I said, well, if mine is that authentic, I guess it does push you into a place of being an influencer. Um, because and that's not what I want to be. I'm gonna be very clear about that too. I like flying under the radar. Um, but if you want to go the route of being an influencer, if you are finding different stories on Yahoo, if you're finding different things on other areas that you already read and interested in your day to day, that's a beautiful thing to then click it into your LinkedIn page because it's showing people that you're reading about what your craft is, and also it means that you're also sharing it with other people in your network who essentially are within the same industry or craft. Um, all right, so we're gonna go through mine real quick. And then we're going to go back to Bryce's. All right. So I'm not going to front. Before I had a picture of me in jeans. Like I just didn't, yeah, it just wasn't that serious to me. But of course, I had to change that up. Um, we're going to talk about ad profile sections when we get to Bryce's page. And essentially, I'm going through things that I like. So when we talk about the impressions, and when I said that you could do different things. I love that when you write a post, you can feature it on your page. So that's exactly what the employer sees. And so what I did was I said, well, what I'm going to start doing is these are all featured. I'm going to start writing. And I started to write about my profession and my engagement with students. So here, is a collaboration with UD. Here is one of my scholars that worked for the USDA. Trying to think one of the most popular. This is one of our industry partners in Focus Pharmacy in Smyrna, and I did a whole write up on her and her business to scratch her back like she scratched ours. She's actually taken interns from our pre-pharma, and she's also participated in night shifts. I think this might be like the most popular. And this was over the summertime. And this is one of my mentees, and she also was in the program. And so I just wrote up stuff. I wrote up stuff in the sense of my views on why we did what we did, and basically the outcomes of her experience and where she's going in the future, which is UD for a master's degree program. And so here you can always see who liked it, loved it, but this is like 957 impressions. So if you're looking at the view analytics, you can literally see 957 impressions, 30 reactions, like I said, the likes and the hearts. You can see the job titles of that 957. So the job titles were here: professor, research assistant, teacher, founder. I'm not going to go into another story, but I've had other like university presidents on there, and it's all because somebody in their network liked it. It went up, and then the president saw it, and then was like, "Oh, let me read about that." So that's how the analytics tracks. It'll track the locations of these 957 impressions, whether they're coming from the greater Philadelphia area, all this type of good stuff. The actual companies, and each week it will also tell you the number of company, not the number, but the names of companies that have visit your page. Uh, yeah, so those are different companies. It will also break down the companies into industries. So out of that 957, most was higher educational professionals, then research professionals, then biotech, and so forth and so on, as well as the company sizes. So if I were to say, hey, I saw that, I don't know, USDA was one of my impressions, and I can then see, okay, they got a workforce of 10,000 plus. They got way more than that, but that can make me decide: do I want to work in a workforce of that magnitude, or not? So it just depends on your different preferences. So that's the whole rundown with the impressions, and essentially what you should post and why you should post. It needs to be stuff that is going to present you in kind of a 3D light. And so, yeah, I've always been an educational advisor. I found this online. A lot of people that are in my network are with educational advisement. So you see, it's only two, right? So somebody might think, oh, I'm not going to post anymore about my profession. And I put my 2 cents in there. And even though only two people liked, nah, 149 people read this. So, yeah, I should continue to post and have my opinion about basically what my craft is. Um, and of course, it goes down to the analytics as well. And there's that academic advisor piece. All right. So that's that. I'm gonna go back. Yeah, so I also post about different scholars and their experiences. I think that themes are important. So I'm big on employment, experiential learning, in graduate school. So when I pick different students, they're revolving around those different things. Because if I see the same, okay, Meredith has all these students going up, but all he's doing is talking about where they're employed at right now. No, it needs to revolve. So it'll be something about my profession. Then it'll be something about internships like Sierra did. Then it'll be something about that I learned with mentees. This is one of my student engagement forums. So it always revolves. This is also an industry partner in Dover. Um, one of my past ambassadors that just moved on to another post. One of my colleagues, I went and I supported her for top 40 under 40 for Delaware Business Times. Yeah, and of course, work stuff. So, like the groundbreaking ceremony for the agriculture building. What works also in tandem with that I think is good. Well, let me scroll back down here. Also, be mindful, we are going to go over the different sections really quick, but like I said when we were on the checklist, you don't necessarily have to have all of those here. Um, so experience. Uh, of course, the experience here. Um, being a behavioral interventionist, Lake Forest School District. And this is really what I think is, oh, well, I'll go back up and talk about that. But education is important. Uh, of course, you can have your GPAs on here, but definitely education is definitely important because that's what they're going to look for, really, number one, to make sure that you're qualified for the position. Um, I like that it does also link to the other to another university or the university that you graduated from that's listed. The different skill sets. I like that you can input your own skill sets and then also have people agree with them. So here's one with teaching, and two people endorsed me, which lets an employer know, like, no, he's actual and factual. And so of course you're just going to go through and find what suits you most, and then you can also add them. This is the area that I've learned the most and I enjoy the most because it makes, like I said, it brings you to life. The other thing is that, if I have somebody that is a student of mine and they're connected to me already, and you know how you always going and asking for a professor, a professional person, hey, can you write me a letter of recommendation? Well, one day I thought about it, I said, well, why am I still writing these? I'll write the letter of recommendation for this specific opportunity. But if employers and anybody else, because it is anybody else or anybody, graduate schools do it too. When I brought in NYU, College of Dentistry, they viewed my profile before they committed to coming last week. Um, but what I like is that you can actually, when I write letters of recommendations for students, I then, since I'm connected to them, I can write it here and it shows up on their profile. So yeah, I think that that's cool. 9 times out of 10, people will reciprocate and say, "Oh, oh, thank you for the recommendation. Let me, write one for you." And so yeah, so I have like colleagues. This is a student that just graduated that has known me that I recruited from high school, and this is essentially when they're talking about having diverse recommendations. Uh, Never be afraid to ask. You can have a recommendation from your pastor. You can have a recommendation from your employer from high school. You can have a recommendation from a professor. Depending on the level of where you're at in your career, you can have one from a previous classmate. So this is one of my colleagues, Troy Darden. This is one from Bryce, who works in my office. But he did his last semester. This is one from Sierra. This is one from Joseph. He was a scholar. He was computer science or IT. He just graduated. This young lady was the president of Manners. This young lady worked in my office a long time ago, but we're still really tight. But she also participated in some of our student engagement forums. So I didn't have her write as a student worker. I had her write as somebody who worked with me on a project. And that's another thing that I like about it. Your recommendations can go in different levels. They don't just have to be uh this person I know. It will ask you at what level that you know them and what level of recommendation that you're actually getting, and it actually will say it. This is also various scholars, yep, that have worked in my office or in the program. And then there's the given. So these are letters of recommendations that I've written for other individuals that are connected to me. And this was that piece that I was talking about, is like I feel is better than a hard copy unless somebody is asking for a recommendation. 9 times out of 10, if it's an employer, they're not asking for a recommendation. They're going to call me on the phone for a reference. But if it's I want to go work at this institution for the summer for a summer research program, then yeah, it needs to be a hard copy letter sent to them. So that's the recommendations feature. And last, I'm going to talk about before I switch over to Bryce's is you got your messaging, you have your network. I think it's just, oh, really what I love is the jobs. So with the jobs, you can literally put up in here, like first of all, there's got to be some type of logarithm that lets you know what you're interested in, and it usually goes by your title. So there's in a week, and I'm not just saying your current title. It'll go by all your titles from previous jobs too. For a minute, I was getting so many hits, and I was like, well, why aren't these people talking to me? But then when you do your analytics each week, it'll say what they are searching, what code keywords that they're searching for. So since one of my jobs was recruiter, that's why I'll get all this traffic. And I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense because you need a recruiter for any type of business or industry. But you can also put in your information as far as what you want. You can create your own search engines that are nationwide or specific to an area, to where all of your jobs will literally filter right in, and also then be connected right to your phone on your email. So another thing that's I think is pretty tight is, where is that one? You see this position, you can find a job and it'll tell you that a Dell State alumnus works there. On top of that, it'll also tell you who I currently work with that works there. And she's not on here. I can't find it. So one day I was looking at this and it said Miss Terry Jeffries was the director of financial aid. Well, Terry Jeffries now works in the graduate school. So if I was interested in applying for this, I could easily say, hey, Terry, what was your experience like at Johnson C. Smith? I have an interview coming up. Should I really consider it? So yeah, that's cool. And then the last would definitely be your notifications. And your notifications are essentially going to be where you end up having all of your, I don't know, all of your, well, essentially where everything is going on that you need to be abreast about, so that you then have the choice to engage with it or not. So I could say congrats to Bryce's new position. um I could look at the jobs that are actually at the Community College of Philadelphia because they're in my job alert. They have something that I would potentially want to do. I can see my colleagues. I can see she was in the doctoral program with me. I called her and said congrats on her new position. These are people that are liking the other stuff that I just like that's in the news and that I read. So I love, this has to deal with colleges. Other people that are in my network would love it, and they did. This is a saying that I said I was on my Facebook, and this is what I said 7 years ago. And I was like, well, my new saying, apologies, but your stress is above my pay grade. And I just put, to establish healthy professional boundaries. And 154 people viewed it. Like, so that just shows you my personality. What else is on here? Mm, I think that's about it. Somebody was on here that was influential. Let me see. Oh, they must have taken it off. I don't know. Yeah. So, or it might be further down. So Dr. Tony Allen was on my page. And what I like about that is that whatever he did see, whether he did or didn't like, it goes by timing. So at the time I noticed that he was on my page for 2 days. Well, I automatically went back to the post since we're not connected to see what he was interested in. So I was able to figure out, hey, okay, it was either about the groundbreaking or it was about X, Y, and Z. So I really, this is a good feature. If we go into Bryce, um, and we'll go directly to his page, and we already have all the information to make it polished. Essentially, this is where you're gonna go. Where's your tab? Maybe it's down further. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So everybody has this add to profile. So of course you're gonna have your core, what you want to add about yourself, your education, your position. You don't have career breaks. Add your skills, and this is all when you. This is all the sections that will then populate on your page to then go ahead and fill in. Um, Recommended. These are things that they're recommending that you do. Like I said, if you want to add courses to show that you're knowledgeable about different areas that a company is looking at you at, that's fine too. I wouldn't, like I said, I would not do your whole transcript. All you need is maybe at max four of them. You can also add the recommendation section, and then there's the add additional. For students, volunteer is important. Undergrads, you wouldn't have publications. Grad would. You don't know patents. You might have projects. Like I said, there's a lot of experiential learning. If you worked on a project with a faculty member, you might want to highlight that. Your awards and honors should be there. You don't need your test scores. You don't need your languages unless you speak another language, additional languages. You can also add your organizations, add your causes. I think mine, I finally working with students when I saw this one, I was like, oh well, I need to add, social justice. I need to add higher education affordability. I need to add those different things. And then also you can add your contact information. I also say you always put online what you're most comfortable with with sharing. So if you don't want to add your contact information or you just want to put your name and your email, that's fine. You shouldn't feel like you're obligated to anything. There was one more thing. This is the other thing. I thought this was neat. So when you tab on this position, oh wait, it yeah, so it will actually take you to my employer, but also what I like is it'll list it'll take you to my employer. It will also list, of course, underneath see more, all of these different things that I've done or do or gear towards. And since I'm in a dual position, I would need to add that as well. But this is kind of crazy to where it will actually take you to the website. So, like I said, I oversee the Office of Student Engagement. It'll actually just go, it'll link to that actual website, which helps create more traffic or business. And so it'll go. This is the website for the College of Ag, Science and Technology's Office of Student Engagement. So I think it's neat because it has you can meet with me. It has if you need a vote, there's information right there. It has our organizations. Any student engagement forum that you've ever missed that has ever been, and we had them all last year and this year. They're here or they're in the archive. Yeah, right here. So you can find any topic like this that you might want to watch and learn from. And then all of the services across campus that are associated with student engagement. So yeah, I like the fact that the you can link your actual work experience to the other things that you do. Why is this coming down? I feel like there was one more thing I wanted to say about Bryce's. Okay, so you see, so what we'll end up doing is we'll add the polished stuff so that you guys saw the see more link so that when it drops down, all of those different tasks and responsibilities will be there. We'll redo the Delaware FFA and then add in those key that chunk that was at the on the second page. We'll enhance Busser with another name and different types of tasks and responsibilities that will go in alignment with these or where he wants to go as far as a future position. This is we'll find ways to endorse. This was the last thing I wanted to say, and then we'll move into the game. Is that your interests matter. So when you go to your interests, you can either have companies or schools. Well, these different companies uh, could be companies that you want to work for in the future. Right now you might say, okay, my dream is to work at Microsoft Office. It might be to work for Microsoft. You guys, I'm a little exhausted. So if you were to like Microsoft and add it here, anything that Microsoft has going on is going to generate in your general news feed. So it helps you prepare in advance for the future. So what if you do end up landing an interview with Microsoft and it's 3 years later? Well, in that news feed over 3 years, there's going to be stuff that's gonna catch your eye that you're going to read because you're interested in it. Period. Because it's in alignment with your major. So if you could sit down and say, "Hey, I remember these problems that happened in the past. I know I'm a problem solver, and I also see this problem that's now, and how do these two relate?" They're going to look at you and be okay, okay, we need to have further discussions with them. And then it doesn't always have to be, in an employer. Like here, he has the state of Delaware. They have a lot of good information that's going on throughout the state. So the other thing is schools. I always tell students, right now you think I'm not, and it's trust me, I've been there. So you might be grueling going through that 4 years. You're definitely not all the time thinking about graduate school, but it's important that you at least dream and then look at different programs, see if you'd be comfortable there, add them here, because as your news feed starts generating information for them, 9 times out of 10 they always have assistantships and fellowships that are coming up. And if you're a junior and you're seeing stuff your junior year, it's going to be on your mind to see, okay, wait, they're actually going to pay for my whole schooling. So over the summer between junior and going into senior, I'm going to go to the website, see how I need to prepare, make sure that my candidacy is as competitive as possible, and yeah, go from there. So definitely make sure that you're utilizing these two tabs. Uh, Stop sharing. I do want to just ask really quickly, because we are coming up on 50. If anybody has to dismiss, I totally understand. The survey link is in the chat. If you need to capture your attendance, I just ask that you make sure that you put your name, your email, and the instructor that the attendance needs to go to. And you're also included in a $10 Amazon gift card drawing. Um, but are there any questions, general questions, before I go forward with the identifying game? Because I know that was a lot of information. Zach, if you're
Me,
talking,
or
uh,
me, still meeting at 12.
uh, did you schedule a meeting?
Yes.
Okay. So, okay, the survey doesn't show for me in the chat here. I'll also hold on one second. Two, two. All right, you guys, do you see the survey again or survey this time? All right. All right. So I'm gonna go into to let me skip down to it. Play from current slide. And all I need is for somebody to, of course, answer. And then we'll just try to really quickly figure out which one it is. And you guys are over here. So, in the spirit of homecoming, and yeah. So, in the spirit of homecoming, some of the alums that I graduated with are coming. And so, we're going to call this game All Nah, or we can let it fly. So, and my one of my best friends, Derek, he's from Virginia. So, the top one is what he always says. So, yeah, so we're going to just identify um, if it should fly or All Nah. Okay. And I just need somebody to yeah, I'm gonna ask for one person to say, if there are two people, if there's one person that says all nah, and if there's one that says let it fly, I would just like you to unmute and just tell me why. Okay? So we can move real quick. So is this all nah or let it fly? Michelle Coleman, what do you think?
I was thinking no, but I'm not sure if I'm wrong.
Okay, that's fine. Um, hold on one second, because Elijah, what do you think?
No.
You said no.
Yeah.
All right, so why do you two say no?
Because his posture is slouched and um he doesn't seem, enthusiastic or anything, and it looks like he doesn't really care. That's why I
Okay.
say no.
Okay, so the answer is all no. I mean, one, he's talking about a beanbag chair. He's supposed to be at work. We got on his badge. So who's he lounging for? And then he works as a supply chain management and logistics. So why isn't he working? We're in a supply chain crisis. So no, that doesn't make sense to post something like this on LinkedIn. What about this one? Bryce, what do you think? Actually, you know what? Adriana Lustin, what do you think about this one?
Um, yes.
Do you think that this post is should be on LinkedIn or no?
Yeah, it
Okay.
should.
You got one example or one justification? Why do you think it should be on there? Okay, Antonia said it's encouraging the people to
I
vote.
can't really.
Okay. So of course, yes, it should be on LinkedIn. It's and Antonia Sabrine is actually right. It is encouraging people to vote. It's talking about the Community College of Philadelphia. And of course, that's got to be good outreach. What about this one? Vermont, let's go. And he is at the University of Maryland Eastern Shore finishing up his PhD. That's what this C means. He's in candidacy. So essentially, Vermont is about to go legal. So Brian, why do you say yes and no?
I say yes and no. Yes, because he's educating people on marijuana starting to be legal in Vermont, but no, because he could have worded it differently in a more professional way.
Okay. Zachary Bernard, what do you think?
I say yes, only because he works in the field of cannabis. So it kind of correlates to what he wants to do and like what he's currently doing. But like she said, he could definitely word it in a more professional way though.
That's crazy because initially I said no. He's actually a Dell State grad. This is Tony. He used to work in my building. Cool, so cool. Um, and he's now at UMES finishing his doctorate. So initially I said no, but y'all now yes, it's yeah, it should. And then also when we look at he's a researcher on cannabis. So why would he not promote his craft and educate everybody else about what what his craft is or his expertise to be is? So yeah, okay, I'm learning. Uh what about this one? Bryce.
Um, I I would say, I guess depending on the story, I guess it'd be okay. I guess he's given his more personal story, but it just depends on what it relates to.
Elijah.
I say yeah because it's not like overstepping any boundaries, and it's like more so like his life story and stuff. It's not really, but then again, I would say no because that's more personal. It's not professional.
Jayla Davis, what do you think?
I agree with what he said. It's not really, it's like more personal and not professional. Like he could have
Yes.
kept that like maybe on his Instagram or something rather than on a professional platform.
And honestly, I mean, since this started probably in the 2000s, I've never been a fan of posting anything this personal on any type of social media. I never could understand why, because at the end of the day, it feels like you want guilt somebody, or you want sympathy. And for it to actually be on a professional network, yeah, that's just not a good look. Other things that I shy away from, and I do see it, but I think it's because I'm very conservative. I wouldn't post that I got married. I wouldn't post, hey, this is my first baby. Look at, nah. These are things that actually can go against you if an employer is trying to weed your resume out. People have bias and discrimination all day long. There's people that hire people that don't like that you have kids because they, in their mind, they feel like you won't have time to give your all to work. So you got to be mindful. This could be a disability. He could come back with some type of disability. I could just assume as an employer, he didn't have a brain aneurysm. He's not going to be 100% cognitively. I I know another person. So yeah, stuff like that. I never could understand. What about this one? Antonia. I mean, yeah, Antonia.
I can't really see the whole picture
Oh, you mean her face or down here?
down there.
It says they're locked up in DC and learning how to code at MIT, Massachusetts Institution of Technology.
I say yes because there's nothing really negative. Like, even though, like, yes, they are incarcerated, they're trying to change and educate themselves. So I feel like, that's a yes for me.
Okay. Adriana, what do you think?
I'm gonna say no because I feel like instead of locked up, they just said incarcerated, which would sound better.
Oh, yeah. Okay, but let's give her credit because she's just posting from the WashingtonPost.com. So, but also she is a visionary and innovative educator. So like I have a best friend Rozzy, and she worked in the prison system doing adult learning. And so my mindset in the beginning was like something different, but over time I've learned so much. And so what I'm saying is we can't count what the Washington Post said against what she might be an educator that's a visionary and innovative educator, because that's what these gentlemen are doing. They're not coding from a classroom. They're coding from an unconventional place. So I would say, honestly, I think the answer is let it fly. And then, oh, I should have never said what I said earlier. What do you guys think about this post?
Absolutely no.
Okay, that was quick. Bernard.
It's too personal.
Okay. One time I saw, and I couldn't find it because I've been collecting these for like 2 years because I knew at some point in time I was going to teach this. I ended up seeing a gentleman that had up a post that said, "Oh, well, what about this one, real quick? Because I think this is the last one, or yeah,
I
is
say
this
yes and no.
Yes.
yes? Okay,
That
this
one,
is
no.
this is my favorite of all time because it came across the news feed, and I don't know him, we're not connected. But I said, wow, how genius is that? You sliding through, your stuff's there, QR code, they're gonna go straight to whatever it is that you're selling. So that's let it slide, let it fly. And then this gentleman, we said no when we talked about pictures and having our t-shirts off. Is this a yes or a no?
No.
Everybody saying no? Okay. Of course it's no. First of all, um, the shirt situation. I mean, you should be selling something, but you should be in a little bit more of a professional manner. Uh, and then the Terrain Theory podcast. That is his podcast. It makes sense, especially to have like episode 34, blah, 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 blah. But where we have the other issue is called division and being divisive. If you're trying to sell something, you don't want to divide people. And actually, you don't want to divide people in general. You don't want to divide people if you're a leader. It makes work harder. But down here, he says one another thing that they're going to talk about is why the globalist elites have already lost. Well, who? That sounds paranoia to me. Like, who's coming after you from the elites? And on top of that, there's there's people that are 100,000aires. There's people that are millionaires that consider themselves elite. You got people that are 40,000aires that consider themselves elite. So you're blocking a whole sector of people that might be able to invest in your business to sell whatever it is he's trying to sell. So yeah, that was the one I didn't like the most. We already just talked about what should I post while we were on LinkedIn, so we don't need to cover that. But I was just going to express the last thing that I saw. It was a post with a gentleman, and he's standing. You can tell he's on a vacation, and he's talking about how he hasn't been on a vacation in 4 years. And I'm thinking, why is this on LinkedIn? It just didn't make sense to me. And so he was basically saying how hard he works is why he wasn't on LinkedIn. Why would that be a problem with an employer? Even if he was dressed, even if he had had no picture up and he just posted, I haven't been on a vacation in 4 years because I work so hard. Yep, Elijah?
You said why would it be a problem for an employer because he didn't make a profile?
No, not a profile. If he had a post that showed him on a vacation and he's writing on it, he's writing on the post saying, I haven't had a vacation in 4 years.
Because
He's
that
making it seem like he's worked so hard that he hasn't had enough time to go on vacation. That's the way he's making his post look. Why would that be a problem for an employer that is looking to employ him?
I was gonna say they're gonna think that that's all he is worried about
Yep.
in the vacation.
So we also have to think about national trends. What's big right now is work-life balance. So if I'm an employer and I see that, I'm going to think, okay, if I put him in a leadership position, is he going to expect the people underneath him to do the exact same thing that he's doing when we're trying to promote a work-life balance? So, yeah, that's pretty much it. As far as LinkedIn.